I built a working chess set in LEGO Fortnite Odyssey, and I'm going to show you how to build it. Each individual piece on the board is essentially its own vehicle with balloons, thrusters, and a driver's seat. This allows you to pick up and move the pieces wherever you want, just like a real game of chess. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to build the stationary version if you just want to use it as a sculpture, and the working version. The only difference is that with the working set, the board is a little bit bigger, but the pieces are built exactly the same with the addition of vehicle parts. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe for more awesome builds like this in the future. Also, if you want to support my channel directly, using creator code EpikBricks in the item shop is always appreciated. And if you ever want to see builds like this come to life, then check me out on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok, where I stream most days from 4 to 8 p.m. PST. Alright, so first we're going to start with the boards. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly flat, but you need to just find an area on the map that is relatively flat, just like this. From here, take one of these wood foundations and just place it so that way the top of it clears all the hills that are around you. So now when we start to build our board outward, nothing is going to collide with any of this terrain. So the smaller board for the stationary set is going to use the castle-wide floor 2, and then it's going to use the Sugi floor 2 old from Shogun Palace. So let's start with one of the castle floors. Now, there is a 16 by 16 version of this Sugi floor, but as you can see, it has some of these light brown streaks in it. So if you want that, that's fine, but otherwise you're going to have to use the 8 by 8s to get a solid brown. So to get that solid color, we just need to use the Sugi floor 2. We're just going to snap that into place, nudge it over, and then place it. And then the only difference is you have to place 4 of these instead of just 1. Now you're just going to repeat that pattern in an 8 by 8 grid, just like a chessboard. So you should have 8 spaces going up and 8 spaces going across. And then you'll just repeat that process until you fill in the whole board. Now, if you plan on making the working version, I recommend making the board just a little bit bigger. So instead of using 16 by 16 squares, we're actually going to make them 20 by 20 stud squares. So to do that, we're going to place down our 16 by 16 castle floor to start. Then we want the 16 by 2 castle floor, and we're going to snap that to 2 opposite ends. From there, we're going to need the 12 by 2, and we're going to snap these to the other side and then move them all the way over. And then same thing for the other side, snap it and then move it all the way over. Now we need the 8 by 2, and we should be able to snap those to the 12s just like that. And now we have a 20 by 20 granite square. Next, we're going to go to the 16 by 2 Shogun floor, and we're just going to snap that directly next to this square. Then we're going to take the 8 by 8 Shogun floor, snap it to this, line it up with the 16, and then snap 4 of these just like that. Then we're going to go back to the 16 by 2, snap it there, nudge it over so it's flush, and then place it. Now we need the 12 by 2, and we're going to snap that there and there. Then we need the 8 by 2, and we're going to snap that there and there. And now we have a 20 by 20 wood square. And then just like the smaller board, you're going to repeat that process until you're 8 squares up and 8 squares across. Now, building the bigger one is definitely more tedious than building this one, even though the pieces are the same size. But when you're moving these pieces around on this version, you're going to want that extra wiggle room so you don't bump into other things. Now, it really doesn't matter too much which colors you go with for the floor pieces for the board, but this is going to make it match the pieces we're going with perfectly. All right, next I'll show you how to build this fancy border I did around the side. So for the border, what I did is I set down a floor piece on the top right here, and then I snap another one to it so it's kind of floating over the edge. And then we're able to break this one, and then this one we placed will stay there, even though it's not really connected, but it is. And then for the small board, I went out 2 of these for the thickness, and then for the large board, I went out 6 spaces for the thickness. So from here, you would just go all the way around the board, and it's going to take some troubleshooting with Lego math to figure out how to get it to go around the board evenly. So now you should have a border going around the board like this. Then just find some wall pieces that you want to use that match and start placing them underneath, going all the way around. Once you have that built all the way around, you should have your boards completed. Now, I will say I did mine a little bit differently. I did a sideways building technique with floor pieces, but the wall pieces are just a little bit easier to do. All right, now let's get started on the pieces. So whether you're building the stationary small board or the larger board for the moving pieces, the instructions for every single piece is going to be exactly the same. The only difference is if you're building on the stationary board, you want to build right at ground level, right at the center of the space where it's going to belong forever. If you're building the moving pieces, you want to make sure you start these instructions on top of a foundation piece on the space that they belong. Since these are vehicles, you need to detach them so that way they become independent and fall into place. And if you're not sure how a chessboard is supposed to be set up, the queens are actually supposed to be directly across from each other, and the gray queen is supposed to be on a gray space, and then directly across from it is the brown queen on a brown space. If I didn't make that make sense, I'll put up a picture on the screen here on how a chessboard is supposed to be set up. So first, let's start with the pawn. So first, we're going to take our wooden foundation block 1 and place that right in the center. And from there, we want to build that out into a 3x3 square, just like this. So again, if you're building the stationary version, just start here. If you're building the moving version, start on top of one of these. On top of this, we're going to do a 2x2 square of these blocks. And then we're actually going to stack that 2 high. From there, we're going to do 1 block in the center and stack that 2 high. From here, snap another block, nudge it up 2 spaces and over 2 spaces. Then from there, just snap on the other 3. And then for the last layer, just 1 more on top. Now from here, we're going to filter by Shogun Palace. First, we want the 12x2 floors, and we're going to place those on the front here and on the back there. Then we want the 8x2, and we're going to place those on the sides there and there. Then we want the 6x2, and we're going to place those there, and then we're going to go all the way around, and it's actually going to complete this square perfectly. Then do that again for the second layer. And then there should also be a 4x4 square in the Shogun, and then just place that right on top. Now, when it comes to the pawn, it's built exactly the same, but with granite foundation pieces. Then for the floor pieces on the granite, we can use the Friendly Neighborhood, we can use Raven's Roost, or the free set Majestic Manners. So the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man floors are going to match pretty much perfectly. The Raven floors match really well, but they have a little bit of light gray accent, so it doesn't match perfectly. Then the only free pieces that I could find that match really well are the castle pieces, and they match on the top, but they also have this thin brown line going through. And at the end of the day, this looks really good too. Now that you've got those done, just repeat it 7 more times for the granite side and 7 more times for the wood side. Also, for the people building the moving version, I'll show you how to add all the balloons to all the pieces after I go through all the instructions on all the pieces. Next, let's move on to the castle. So just like the pawn, we're actually going to start with a 3x3 base of foundation blocks. Then for this layer, we're going to build a 2x2 square with these blocks. And then we're going to go up 6 spaces. So this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And then just fill in the rest all the way up to that point. So now it should look like this. From here, we're going to snap a block there, nudge it up 2, over 2, and then place it. And then this layer is going to be another 3x3 square with these blocks. And then for the last layer, you're just going to snap a block to each of the corners here. Going back to our floor pieces, we're going to use the 12x2s on the back and the front. Then the 8x2s to fill in the sides. Then at the top, we're actually going to go to the 12x2s and place 2 of them right there. Then we're going to switch to the 4x4, and that should allow us to fill in every other gap that we have left here. And then when it comes to the floor pieces for the granite version, you should have all the same size pieces for the other themes. All right, next up on the list, let's build the knight. So just like all the other pieces, we're going to start with a 3x3 square of the foundation blocks. And then we're actually going to build that up 2 additional layers. So to start, you should essentially have a 3x3x3 block. For the 4th layer, we're going to do a 2x2 square. And then for the next layer, we're going to do another 2x2 square, but this one is going to be 2 studs back from the one below it. And then we're going to do that 1 more time for the next layer. So same 2x2 square, just bumped up 2 studs. Or excuse me, bumped back rather. Then the next layer is going to be another 2x2 square, but on top. The next layer is another 2x2 square, but this one we're going to start to nudge it 2 spaces forward. The next layer, we're also going to bump 2 spaces forward, but we're actually going to build this 3 blocks out. And then from there, we're going to start to build a little staircase that starts to step it up like this on the top. For the floor pieces, we're going to go back to the 12x2 for the bottom, place 1 on the front and 1 on the back. Then we're going to switch to the 8x2 for the sides here and there. And then we're actually able to stay on the 8x2 and place them on every single spot that we have left on this piece. And then when you're doing the granite version, just use the same size pieces, but for granite. Next, we'll move on to the bishop. So let's start with our 3x3 square of blocks. Then we're going to build that up 1 additional level. Then we're going to go to a 2x2 square, and we're also going to build that up 1 additional level. Then we're going to go 1 block in the center, also building it up 2. Then from here, we're going to snap up 2 and over 2 to get us back to a 2x2 square. And again, we're going to build this up 2 as well. From here, we're going to go 1 in the center. From there, we're going to go back to a 2x2 square, and then back to 1 in the center. Again, for the bottom, we're going to use the 2x12s at the back and the front, the 8x2s on the sides. Then for this layer, and this layer, we're going to use the 6x2s going all the way around, just like we've done before. And then right at the top, we do a 4x4. And then again, for the granite side, it's the exact same build and the same size floor pieces, except for the granite. Next, let's get the queen done. Let's start with our 3x3 base of blocks. Then for the second layer, we're going to move to a 2x2 square, and then we're going to build that up 2 additional layers. The next layer is just going to be 1 in the center. From there, we're immediately going to go back out to the 2x2 square, and then we're going to build that up 1 additional layer. Then we're going to go back to the center, but this time we're going to build it 2 layers up. Then from there, we go back out to the 2x2 square, and we're going to build that one up 2 layers. And then finally, just 1 at the top in the middle. And then since the queen is so similar to the bishop, it is literally exactly the same setup for the floors, 12x2s on the front and the back, 8x2s on the sides. For this layer, and this layer, we're going to use 6x2s to build all the way around. And then at the top, we do a 4x4. Then, since there's only 1 queen on each side, we only need to repeat that process 1 more time in granite form with all the granite pieces. All right, last piece is the king. First, let's start with our 3x3 square foundation. Then we're going to go to a 2x2 square, and then we're going to build that up 2 additional layers. Then we're going to go to 1 in the center. The next layer is immediately going to go back to a 2x2 square of the blocks, and we are going to build that up 1 additional layer. Then we're going to do 1 in the center, and we're going to build that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going up. And at the third brick, we want 1 going outwards in each direction to make the cross. Now again, for the floors, we're going to go with the 12x2s on the bottom, then the 8x2s for the sides here. Then for this layer and this layer, we're going to use the 6x2s to wrap it all the way around. And then to finish it off, we just need the 4x4 squares to place on these last 3 spaces. And again, since there's only 1 king, you'll only have to repeat this 1 more time for the granite side with the granite pieces. So at this point, if you're building the stationary board, you should be completely finished if you've replicated all the pawns and every other piece that I've showed you how to build. But if you're building the working version, make sure that you do not disconnect these from their foundations yet, because we still need to add the balloons and all the other stuff. So first we're going to put the seats on, and the seats pretty much go in the same place for all the pieces. They're going to go in the back in the center on the lowest possible surface that you can place them. So for most of the pieces, it's going to go right here at this bottom level, but for the knight, it's going to go all the way up here, which is the only spot you can place it as low as possible. Then when it comes to the thrusters, we're going to put 1 small thruster right underneath the seat on every single piece. Then every single piece also needs 2 thrusters on the left and 2 thrusters on the right. So you should have them both in the center on each side, and there's going to be 4 studs from the left and 4 studs from the right. And like I said, we're going to do this for every single one. So for example, the pawn's going to go there for the seat. The back thruster goes right beneath that. And then the 2 thrusters on this side go there and there. And on the opposite side, they're going to go there and there. Now, when it comes to changing the channels for all of this, these are going to all be exactly the same. The thruster on the back, we're going to set to channel 2. Then if we're standing at the back of the piece, the thruster on the left side towards the back, we want to set to channel 1. Then this one right here is going to be defaulted to channel 3. We're going to leave this one here. Then on the other side, this one should also be defaulted to channel 3 along with the one in front, but this one in front we're also going to change to channel 1. So this means when we press channel 2, we're going to go forward. When we press channel 1, we're going to turn left. When we press channel 3, we're going to turn right. And then when we place the activated balloons, those are actually defaulted to channel 4, and we're going to be leaving those on channel 4. So let's start with the balloons now, and they're going to be a little bit different for each kind of piece, but they're pretty simple. So you can really use almost any floor piece for this, but we're just going to take a floor piece and snap it to the side of the top of this floor piece here at the top of the pawn. From there, we're going to take a balloon and just place it on this floor that we just placed. Now, normally, if we wanted to place this balloon here, we would either have to have it just off to the left or just off to the right. But with this technique, if we take this balloon and look at the base of this balloon very carefully, and then without moving our camera, we're going to nudge this over. What this does is it actually moves the piece we're placing half a stud off the normal grid, and when we place it, you'll notice that this balloon is actually now perfectly centered in the middle of this piece. Like I said, normally you'd only be able to place this a little bit off to the left or a little bit off to the right. So now just repeat that process, and we're going to do another one that's right in the center all the way towards the back. And you'll actually notice that these balloons are hanging off the floor by about half a stud, but they're still able to connect. From there, we're going to switch to these small activated balloons, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at the base of this balloon, and then we're going to nudge it over to the right and in the center there. So now this one's on the right side, but it's exactly going through the center of the mass of the piece. Then we're going to take our second activated balloon and place it on the opposite side. Once you get those balloons placed, you're good to break this piece with the balloon. Now, sometimes when you break that temporary floor piece, sometimes what'll happen is this balloon will end up breaking too. So all you have to do is snap a floor out to the opposite side, then build your reference balloon. Now do the trick from the opposite side so you can place it over here like that. And now when you break this one, that balloon should definitely stay now. Now you're just going to repeat that process for all 8 wooden pawns and all 8 granite pawns. It's exactly the same balloon setup along with the thrusters. For the castle, we're going to start with regular balloons that are already activated, and we're actually going to put them in each of the corners without using the centering technique because we don't need to here. Then here, we're just going to build one balloon off to the side. And now here, we're going to do the trick because this one we want perfectly centered right in the middle of the castle. Now we're going to switch to the activated balloons, and we're going to nudge these over so one's right about up front, and then the other one's going to be right about in the back. Now these ones you don't have to make hang right off the edge, so I have them half a stud from the edge. But now we're good to break this balloon. And now you should have all of the balloons symmetrically and evenly placed. The knight is pretty easy on this bottom layer. We're going to do a balloon on each of the corners, so we don't need to do the special technique. And then up top, we just need 2 activated balloons in the corner there and there. And then 2 more regular balloons on the step right below that, there and there. Next up is the bishop, and then for this, it's going to be a little bit different. On the bottom layer, we're going to do an activated there. And then on the opposite corner, we're going to put another activated balloon. And then on the remaining corners, we're going to put a regular balloon. Then at the top, we're going to put a reference balloon right here. We're going to aim at the bottom to get it off-centered, and we're going to place this one on the left in the center, and then one all the way to the right in the center. Now we can get rid of this balloon, and now we have these 2 balloons going right through the center of mass of this piece. The queen is going to be exactly the same on the bottom as the bishop. We're going to do 2 activateds on the corner there, and then on the remaining corners, we're going to do 2 regular balloons. And then again, just like the bishop, let's get our reference balloon down, and then we're able to place one right in the center on the left here, and then one in the center on the right. Once again, the king gets the same treatment on this bottom layer. We're going to do 1 activated in those corners, and then a regular balloon in the remaining corners. Up here, we're going to put our reference balloon there, and then we should be able to use this reference balloon to place one there on the left, and then all the way back over here on the right. Now you should be good to go. Like I said, all of these activated balloons should be defaulted to channel 4, and we're just going to leave them there. So this will work for any of the pieces, but for example, the pawn, we're going to hop in. Channel 4 is going to lift us up. Channel 1 is going to turn us left. Channel 3 is going to turn us right. Channel 2 is going to move us forward. And then deactivating channel 4 is going to let us fall down again. Now, it should take some getting used to, but if you're extremely careful, you'll be able to get these into the perfect spot every time you want to. And when you're finished, all you have to do is go around and break the foundation out of each one of these, and they will fall right into the spot. Now, one thing I recommend is after you break them all down off the foundation is you want to log out and log back in, because even though we've wired up everything correctly right here, after we disconnect it, for some reason, none of the thrusters are working and none of the balloons are working. But all you have to do is log out and log back in, and it should reset all of the vehicle channels so that way they work. So whether you built the stationary version or the working version, hopefully that was helpful and easy to follow. And if it was, be sure to subscribe for even more LEGO Fortnite content. And like I said before, if you want to see builds like this come to life, check me out live on TikTok, YouTube, or Twitch, where I stream pretty much every day from 4 to 8 p.m. Pacific. Someone in my chat actually suggested for my next project that I should build a battleship board, and I think that would be a great idea. But I'll see you guys on the next one.